Our weed of the week is Velvetleaf.
Velvetleaf's one of my favorite weeds, Brian, because there are some really great options to control it. We raise primarily corn and soybeans, and when we look at post-emerge options for controlling velvetleaf, there are some great ones, and they're relatively inexpensive. The other thing, we were talking about pre's earlier on the show today, and when we think about pre-emerge products, there are some good choices that have a high impact on velvetleaf pressure. So if you've got a big velvetleaf problem across your farm, you really shouldn't. There are some options that you can use to try and get this weed under control.
Yeah, there really are, especially compared to what we had 20, 30 years ago. There wasn't much out there at all. Now, let me say too, before we get into these pre-emerge options, Roundup is not that great, as you probably are already aware. One of the issues that we have is just if you're spraying anytime other than the middle of the day, the velvetleaf leaf kind of droops, so it's hard to get good coverage on there. But other than that, Roundup just isn't that effective on velvetleaf.
All right, so let's talk about pre-emerge herbicides. When we look at corn, there are some really good ones. I like anything with an HPPD in it, pre-emerge. So when you look at Balance Flex, or you look at any of the combinations that have balance in them, they work well. Also the products that have mesotrione in them, those work nicely too. Here's the other thing though. You can use something like Triple Flex or Sure Start that has Python in it. And Python has been highly effective on velvetleaf. So you've got a few choices there. If you want to use HPPD's post, that would be my recommendation because I think they are the best on velvetleaf and corn. So I would use Triple Flex or Sure Start to start with. Now, those products are going to work better in high pH soil. Python works really well if your pH is above 7. It's still going to work in a lower pH soil. It's just going to work better when you have high pH ground.
The other thing I guess I'd add to that is post-emerge, throw a little atrazine with your HPPD. That will really bump up the performance. Now on soybeans, we talk often about our 3 pre's. We want a yellow, we want metribuzin, we want either Authority or Valor. Well, guess what? None of those are tremendously effective on velvetleaf. Probably the best thing in there would be the metribuzin. So what are you going to do in those cases? Well, you could add Python, just like in corn. The nice thing with Python, it can be used in corn or soybeans. Now don't use Sure Start or Triple Flex in your soybeans, that'll kill them. But use some Python in your soybeans, that will really help.
All right, but post-emerge, we got some great options, and the best two are labeled up to 36-inch tall velvetleaf. So we've got Resource and we've got Cadet. They both are excellent velvetleaf products. That is the weed that they are the best on. When we turn to wheat, we don't normally have a big velvetleaf issue in wheat. You could start off with Sharpen pre-emerge and then come back with Husky post.
Well, the great thing about velvetleaf is we do have good control options in just about every crop now, so it doesn't have to be a big problem on your farm.
That's all the time we have for this week's weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.